The salvage beacon pulsed weakly against the vast emptiness of space, its intermittent signal drawing Commander James Walsh's ship like a moth to flame. The Star Weaver, his modified salvage vessel, glided silently through the debris fields surrounding the derelict Centaurian freighter. Something about this scene didn't sit right. The ship's hull was intact, no signs of combat damage or catastrophic failure. Structural integrity at 92%, minimal power signatures detected, his ship's AI reported. No emergency broadcasts beyond the initial beacon. Walsh ran his fingers through his graying beard, a habit from 15 years of deep space salvage operations. Scan for life signs, Artemis. Processing. Unusual energy signatures detected in the cargo hold. Unable to classify. That got his attention. Unclassified usually meant profitable, or dangerous. Often both. Walsh checked his plasma pistol's charge and secured his environmental suit. Keep the engines hot. I don't like this. The airlock cycled with a familiar hiss as he crossed to the derelict vessel. His magnetic boots clanked against the metal deck, emergency lights casting long shadows through the abandoned corridors. The air was stale but breathable, suggesting recent abandonment. As he approached the cargo hold, a faint humming reached his ears, not mechanical, something else. The massive doors were sealed with an elaborate electronic lock, far more sophisticated than standard freight security. Walsh pulled out his decryption tool and got to work. 7 minutes later, the doors groaned open, revealing a sight that made him step back in shock. 3 crystalline beings floated in containment fields, their translucent bodies pulsing with internal light. They were roughly humanoid in shape, but their forms shifted and flowed like liquid glass. Around their necks were dark metal collars that seemed to absorb the light they emanated. Luminari, Walsh whispered. He'd heard stories about these beings from the Outer Rim, but they were supposed to be myths. Tales of living crystals that could speak directly into your mind, enhance technology with their very presence. Help us. The words appeared in his mind, accompanied by a sensation of desperate hope. One of the beings moved closer to the containment field, its form solidifying into a more definite shape. We are prisoners. The slavers will return soon. Walsh's hand tightened on his pistol. Slave trafficking carried a death sentence in coalition space, but so did harboring Luminari. Their very existence was classified as a threat to human technological sovereignty. Who are you? He asked aloud, though he suspected they could understand his thoughts. I am Vesper. These are my kin, Aurora and Helios. We were taken from our sanctuary by those who would use our abilities for war. Another of the beings, Aurora, moved forward. They bound our essence with these collars, forced us to enhance their weapons. Please. We sense honor in you, James Walsh. The use of his name sent a chill down his spine. These creatures could apparently read more than just surface thoughts. The salvage rights to this ship alone would set him up for a year, and if he turned in the Luminari. But as he looked at these magnificent beings, trapped and collared like animals, something inside him shifted. He'd spent his life taking apart abandoned ships, salvaging what others had left behind. Maybe it was time to save something instead. If I help you, he said slowly, every criminal outfit and government agency in 3 sectors will be after us. The bounty for Luminari. Would you place profit above what you know is right? Vesper's mental voice carried no judgment, only a deep sadness that resonated through Walsh's consciousness. He holstered his pistol and pulled out his electronic toolkit. No. I wouldn't. But this better not be some kind of psychic manipulation. We do not control, only communicate. What you feel is your own conscience, James Walsh. The collar's locking mechanism was complex, but not insurmountable. As Walsh worked on disabling them, he felt the Luminari's gratitude washing over him like warm sunlight. The first collar clicked open, and Vesper's light brightened noticeably. A sudden proximity alert blared through his comms. "Commander," Artemis's voice crackled. "Two vessels just dropped out of FTL. Energy signatures match known slaver configurations." Walsh cursed, working faster on the remaining collars. "How long?" "Intercept in 6 minutes." The second collar fell away, Aurora's crystalline form pulsing with renewed energy. As Walsh reached for the third, Helios's containment field flickered. "They are coming," all three luminari projected simultaneously. "We must hurry." The final collar proved stubborn, its locking mechanism more sophisticated than the others. Walsh's hands moved with practiced precision, aware of each passing second. The approaching ships would be in weapons range soon. Almost. The collar finally yielded with a satisfying click. "There. Can you move?" The luminari floated free of their containment fields, their forms flowing like liquid starlight. "Yes. Your ship." "This way." Walsh led them through the corridors at a rapid pace, his mind racing through escape vectors. The slavers would be expecting them to run for Coalition space. Maybe if they went rimward instead. They reached the airlock just as Artemis announced, hostile ships charging weapons. "We can help," Vesper projected. "Our presence enhances technology. If you will trust us." Walsh looked at the three beings, their light pulsing in sync. Everything he'd been taught said these creatures were dangerous, that their powers could corrupt human technology and minds alike. But he'd made his choice the moment he decided to free them. "All right," he said, cycling the airlock. "Show me what you can do." As they boarded the Star Weaver, Walsh felt a change in the ship's vibration. The luminari spread out, their light touching the walls, and suddenly every display burned brighter, every system responded faster. Power readings jumped to levels he'd never seen. "Multiple weapons locks detected," Artemis reported, its voice somehow more alive than before. Walsh strapped into the pilot's seat, a fierce grin spreading across his face. "Let's show them what we can do together." The Star Weaver's engines flared with unprecedented power, carrying them into the unknown, and into what promised to be the adventure of James Walsh's life. The Star Weaver shuddered as another blast from the pursuing ships grazed their shields. The vessel's enhanced systems, amplified by the luminari's presence, were performing beyond anything Walsh had ever seen, but they couldn't run forever. "Port shield generator is overloading," Artemis announced. "The energy output is exceeding design specifications." Walsh's hands danced across the controls, redistributing power. The luminari's crystalline forms pulsed in sync with the ship's systems, their light casting ethereal patterns across the bridge. "Can you stabilize it?" "We are trying," Vesper projected, their forms stretching toward the ceiling. "But your technology was not designed for our resonance. There are complications." As if to emphasize the point, a cascade of sparks erupted from a nearby console. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated, making Walsh's stomach lurch. Aurora moved to the damaged system, their crystalline body glowing intensely. "The integration is imperfect," Aurora communicated. "Our essence seeks to enhance, but your systems resist. Like a body fighting medicine it needs." "Commander," Artemis interrupted, "structural integrity in the engine section is declining. The power surge is affecting core containment." Walsh swore under his breath. They were literally becoming too powerful for their own good. "Can you pull back? Reduce the enhancement?" "Not easily," Helios responded, their form rippling with concern. "The removal of the suppression collars has left us unbalanced. Control will come with time, but..." Another blast rocked the ship, cutting off the thought. Walsh checked their pursuers' position. Two heavily armed vessels, definitely slaver configuration, and gaining despite the Star Weaver's enhanced performance. "We need options," Walsh muttered, scanning the star charts. "Artemis, what's in range?" The Callisto Nebula lies approximately 3.2 light-minutes to port. Its electromagnetic properties could mask our signature, but navigation would be extremely hazardous. We could help guide you through, Vesper offered. Our kind can sense energy patterns that your instruments cannot. Walsh considered their situation. The nebula was notorious for destroying ships that ventured too deep, but with the Luminary's abilities. How confident are you about this? Very, all three projected simultaneously, their light pulsing with determination. But you must trust us completely. Another hit rattled the ship. Warning lights flashed across multiple systems. Trust wasn't something Walsh gave easily. 15 years of salvage work had taught him that lesson the hard way. But these beings had already proven themselves more honorable than most humans he'd known. All right, he said, adjusting their course. Show me the way. The Starweaver banked hard, diving toward the roiling clouds of the nebula. Behind them, the slavers opened fire with everything they had, desperate to stop their prey from reaching the cover of the electromagnetic storm. As they hit the nebula's outer layer, the ship's sensors went haywire. Screens filled with static, navigation systems spun uselessly, and even Artemis's voice became distorted. But the Luminary's light grew stronger, their forms spreading out to touch different parts of the bridge. Left, Vesper guided. A current of stable energy flows there. Walsh complied, trusting their sight over his instruments. The ship shuddered as they passed through layers of charged particles, but the Luminary's enhancement kept their shields intact. Down, Aurora projected urgently. Radiation spike above. The nebula was a maze of deadly forces, but with each passing moment, Walsh found himself more attuned to the Luminary's guidance. It was like developing a new sense, feeling the energy flows through their perception. Pursuing vessels are still on an intercept course, Artemis reported through bursts of static. But their shields are weakening under nebula conditions. There, Helios indicated. A pocket of relative calm. We can rest there, repair. Walsh guided the ship into the suggested space, where the swirling energies of the nebula formed a natural shelter. The pursuing ships, lacking the Luminary's guidance, were forced to remain at the edges of the storm. As they powered down non-essential systems, Walsh finally had a moment to process what had happened. That was incredible. But we need to talk about these system overloads. If we can't find a way to stabilize your effect on the ship. We understand, Vesper moved closer, their light dimming to a gentler glow. Our freedom comes with responsibility. We must learn control, just as you must learn to adapt your technology. The engineering challenges are significant, Artemis added, its processors now running at unprecedented speeds due to the Luminary's influence. But the potential benefits are equally substantial. Walsh stood and stretched, feeling the accumulated tension in his muscles. First things first. We need repairs, supplies, and a plan. The slavers won't give up easily, and we still don't know who they're working for. There is more you should know, Aurora projected hesitantly. About why we were taken. The slavers, they are merely instruments of a greater power. I was afraid you'd say that. Walsh sighed, running a hand through his beard. All right, let's hear it. How much more complicated is my life about to get? The Luminary's light pulsed with something that felt like a mixture of gratitude and regret. As they began sharing their story, Walsh realized that freeing these beings hadn't just been a moral choice, it had been the first step into a conflict that would challenge everything he thought he knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. The abandoned mining station hung like a tarnished jewel against the nebula's swirling backdrop. Omega-7, once a thriving chromium extraction facility, now served as the perfect hiding spot for the damaged Starweaver and her unusual crew. Walsh guided the ship into a cavernous docking bay, the Luminary's energy signature keeping their systems running despite the severe damage from their escape. As the airlock sealed and atmosphere cycled, Vesper's crystalline form pulsed with concern. This place holds echoes of pain, they projected. Many suffered here. Station was abandoned 10 years ago after a corporate dispute turned violent, Walsh explained, checking atmospheric readings. But the infrastructure is mostly intact. Should give us time to make repairs and figure out our next move. The luminari followed Walsh through the empty corridors, their natural glow providing better illumination than his emergency lights. The station's darkness seemed to retreat from their presence, but shadows of its violent past lingered in the scattered debris and occasional dark stains on the walls. Artemis, start a full diagnostic of ship systems, Walsh ordered as they entered what had once been the station's operations center. Priority on shield generators and engine core stability. Diagnostic initiated, the AI responded, its voice carrying new harmonics since the luminari's influence began. However, Commander, I'm detecting unusual power fluctuations in the station's remaining systems. Walsh frowned, moving to a dust-covered console. This place is supposed to be dead. What kind of fluctuations? Not fluctuations, Aurora projected suddenly, their form brightening. Resonance. Like calls to like. Before Walsh could ask what that meant, the station's ancient systems hummed to life. Dormant screens flickered on, displaying streams of data in patterns he'd never seen before. The luminari's light pulsed in sync with the awakening technology. This was no simple mining operation, Helios communicated, moving to interface with a central terminal. These systems, they were designed to interact with our kind. What? Walsh's hand instinctively moved to his weapon. That's impossible. Humanity didn't even know about Luminari until officially, Vesper interrupted, their mental tone grave. But some have known of us for decades. Have sought to harness our abilities in secret. The implications hit Walsh like a physical blow. The mining operation was a cover. This was a research station. Yes, Aurora confirmed. One of many. The corporations you blame for this station's violence, they were merely pawns in a larger game. Walsh watched as the Luminari interfaced with the station's systems, revealing hidden databases and sealed records. A picture began to emerge that chilled him to his core. The station hadn't been abandoned, it had been deliberately sacrificed to hide evidence of something much darker. Project Luminescence, he read from a decoded file. Government-sanctioned research into energy beings capable of enhancing human technology. But these dates, this was happening 30 years ago. They found one of our kind, Helios projected sadly. Studied them. Tried to replicate our abilities through artificial means. When they failed, they decided to take us by force. The suppression collars, Walsh realized. That's why they were so sophisticated. Someone in the coalition government has been planning this for decades. A sudden alert from Artemis interrupted the revelation. Commander, multiple ships dropping out of FTL at the edge of sensor range. Energy signatures match coalition military vessels. Damn it, Walsh muttered. They're sweeping the nebula. How did they find us so quickly? Because they were waiting, Vesper projected grimly. This station. It still broadcasts on frequencies only our kind can sense. We led them right to us. Walsh's tactical mind raced through options. The Starweaver was in no condition for another chase, and the station's defenses had long since been stripped. How many ships, Artemis? 3 destroyers and what appears to be a specialized containment vessel. Their weapons are powered but not yet targeted. We cannot let them take us, Aurora's mental voice carried an edge of desperation. What they plan? It would mean the enslavement of our entire species. Walsh moved to the operations console, his expression hardening. They won't take you. This station may be old, but it was built to handle Luminari energy signatures. Maybe we can use that. You would stand against your own government? Helios asked, though their tone suggested they already knew the answer. My government gave up any claim to my loyalty when they decided to enslave sentient beings, Walsh replied, already working to reactivate the station's core systems. Artemis, transfer all non-essential power to the station grid. If we're going to survive this, we need to understand exactly what this place was built for. The luminary's light brightened with renewed hope and determination. As they merged their consciousness with the station's ancient systems, Walsh realized that the true battle wasn't just for their freedom, it was for the soul of humanity itself. The next few hours would determine whether his species would be remembered as slavers or saviors. And in the swirling chaos of the nebula, Coalition warships drew ever closer to the hidden sanctuary that had suddenly become their last line of defense. Time was running out. In the heart of Omega-7's control center, Walsh worked feverishly to understand the station's ancient systems while the luminary merged deeper with its infrastructure. Outside, 3 Coalition destroyers maintained their blockade, their presence a constant reminder of the fate that awaited if they failed. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Artemis reported. Demanding immediate surrender and the release of restricted xenotechnology assets. Assets, Walsh spat the word like poison. They can't even acknowledge you as living beings. The lies they tell themselves are necessary for what they plan, Vesper projected, their crystalline form are now thoroughly intertwined with the station's primary systems. To admit our sentience would be to admit their crime. A sudden surge of energy pulsed through the station's grid, causing lights to flare and systems to spike. Aurora's form flickered erratically, their usual steady glow becoming chaotic. Something is happening, they projected urgently. The station's resonance, it's affecting us. Walsh looked up from his console in alarm. Affecting you how? Before Aurora could answer, a wave of pure energy cascaded through the control center. The luminary's forms began to shine with unprecedented brilliance, their light so intense that Walsh had to shield his eyes. He felt a pressure building in his mind, like the moment before a storm breaks. The suppression, Helios's mental voice was stronger than ever. Its effects are being purged. We are awakening. Commander, Artemis's voice carried unusual emotion. I'm detecting quantum anomalies throughout the station. The luminary's energy signatures are exponentially increasing. Walsh watched in awe as his allies transformed before him. Their crystalline bodies grew more complex, fractal patterns emerging within their light. The very air seemed to hum with potential. But with their growing power came growing risk. The station systems were already straining to contain the energy they were producing. We need to control this, he said, trying to stabilize power distribution. The Coalition ships will detect. A massive explosion rocked the station. Warning klaxons blared as Artemis announced, direct hit to the outer hull. They're not waiting for a response. We can fight back, Vesper projected, their mental voice resonating with newfound strength. This station was built to channel our energy. Let us show you what we can truly do. Walsh hesitated. The luminary's power was awesome, but barely controlled. Using it could save them, or tear the station apart. Are you sure you can handle it? No, Aurora answered honestly. But we trust you to guide us. As you trusted us in the nebula. Another impact shook the station. Multiple hull breaches, Artemis reported. They're targeting critical systems. Walsh made his decision. All right. Show me what you need me to do. The luminary's combined consciousness touched his mind, stronger than ever before. This time, there was no gentle sharing of thoughts, this was a flood of pure awareness that threatened to overwhelm him. But within the torrent of alien perception, he found purpose. Through their enhanced connection, Walsh saw the station as they did, not as metal and circuits, but as flows of energy and possibility. He understood suddenly why this place had been built, what it was truly capable of when paired with luminary power. Artemis, he commanded, his voice steadied despite the pressure building in his skull, redirect all power to the quantum resonance chamber. Everything we've got. Yes, the luminari projected in unison, their forms pulsing with barely contained energy. We will show them the price of slavery. The station's hidden weapons emerged from long-dormant housings, not conventional arms, but crystalline arrays designed to focus and amplify luminari energy. As the coalition ships prepared another volley, Walsh felt the power building to impossible levels. Energy discharge in 3. Artemis began counting down. Walsh's consciousness expanded, merged with the luminari's awareness. He felt Aurora's determination, Helios's righteous anger, Vesper's unwavering focus. Their combined will flowed through him, through the station's arrays, reaching out toward their attackers. 2. The coalition ship sensors must have detected something wrong. They began to turn, to flee, but it was too late. 1. Light erupted from the station in coherent beams of impossible power. Where they touched the coalition vessels, reality itself seemed to bend. Shields designed to withstand nuclear bombardment crumpled like paper. Hull plating atomized instantly. But the power was too much for the ancient station to contain. Systems began to overload, connections failing under the strain of channeling such enormous energies. We cannot maintain control, Vesper projected urgently. The station is breaking apart. Artemis. Walsh shouted over the sound of tearing metal. Get the Star Weaver ready for emergency launch. As they ran for the ship, Walsh looked back at the destruction they'd unleashed. One coalition destroyer was completely gone, another drifting powerless, the third retreating at full speed. But their victory had come at a cost. Omega-7 was tearing itself apart, the very fabric of space around it distorted by the release of luminari power. They had survived, had struck a blow against their pursuers. But as the Star Weaver fled the disintegrating station, Walsh knew they had also revealed the true scope of the luminari's abilities to their enemies. The real war was just beginning. The Star Weaver limped through hyperspace, its system still reeling from exposure to raw luminari power. In the ship's cramped medical bay, Walsh pressed a cold pack against his throbbing temples, his mind still adjusting to the aftereffects of his deep connection with the crystalline beings. The neural strain will pass, Vesper assured him, their light dimmed to a gentle glow. Your mind is remarkably adaptable for a human. That's not exactly comforting, Walsh muttered, but managed a weak smile. What you did back there. I've never seen anything like it. What we did together, Aurora corrected. Without your guidance, we could not have controlled the station systems. The ship's intercom crackled. Commander, Artemis announced, approaching the coordinates provided by the luminari. Their sanctuary should be just ahead. Walsh stood carefully, his balance returning. You're sure this place is safe? As sure as we can be, Helios projected. It is our most sacred place, hidden from human sensors. If anywhere in this galaxy is safe for us, it is there. The Star Weaver dropped out of hyperspace into a region of space that seemed to bend and twist around itself. Ahead, a massive crystalline structure floated among the stars, its surface refracting light in impossible ways. Incredible, Walsh breathed. How has no one ever found this? It exists partially out of phase with normal space, Vesper explained. Only our kind can perceive its true nature. But now that you have shared our consciousness, you can see it too. Warning alerts suddenly blared throughout the ship. Multiple vessels detected, Artemis reported urgently. They were masked by the spatial distortions. Coalition signatures, and their powering weapons. How? Walsh demanded, rushing to the bridge. How did they find this place? A new voice crackled over the comm system, cold and precise. Commander Walsh. This is Admiral Chen of the Coalition Special Projects Division. You have something that belongs to us. No, Aurora projected fiercely. We were never yours. Walsh opened a channel. These beings are not property, Admiral. They're sentient creatures with rights. They are the key to humanity's technological advancement, Chen replied. Their powers could revolutionize everything from space travel to weapons technology. The needs of our species outweigh your moral objections. The luminaries' forms pulsed with anger and determination. We will not be enslaved again, they projected in unison. Not now that we understand our true strength. Walsh saw coalition ships moving to surround them, destroyers, cruisers, and what looked like specialized containment vessels. They were trapped between the fleet and the crystalline sanctuary. Last chance, Walsh, Chen announced. Surrender the Luminari, and we'll ensure you're remembered as a hero who helped advance human civilization. Resist, and you'll die a traitor. Walsh looked at his alien companions, beings who had trusted him, shown him wonders he never imagined. The choice was clear. Go to hell, Admiral, he said, and cut the transmission. We can reach the sanctuary, Vesper projected. But you must let us fully merge with your ship's systems. No restraint this time. It could tear the Star Weaver apart, Walsh warned. Yes, Aurora agreed. But there is another option. You could surrender us. Save yourself. Walsh's expression hardened. Not happening. Do what you need to do. The Luminari's light flared brilliantly as they merged with the ship. Walsh felt their consciousness brush his mind again, but this time he embraced it fully. The connection bloomed, and suddenly he wasn't just commanding the Star Weaver, he was part of it. Through their shared perception, he saw energy flows like rivers of light. The coalition ship's weapons seemed to move in slow motion as the Luminari's power enhanced his reflexes to superhuman levels. The Star Weaver danced through space, avoiding salvos that should have been impossible to dodge. They raced toward the sanctuary, but the coalition fleet was closing in. A blast clipped their stern, sending systems into overload. We cannot maintain this level of power much longer, Helios warned. The ship is breaking down. Walsh saw their destination ahead, a gateway in the crystalline structure, pulsing with otherworldly energy. But Admiral Chen's flagship was moving to block their path, its massive weapons charging. Artemis, Walsh commanded, his voice resonating with Luminari energy, divert all remaining power to forward shields. What are you planning? Vesper asked, though their shared consciousness meant they already knew. Walsh gripped the controls, his mind and body humming with power. Sometimes you have to crash through a wall to reach freedom. The Star Weaver accelerated to maximum speed, aimed directly at Chen's flagship. At the last possible moment, the Luminari released a pulse of pure energy that bent space itself around the ship. They phased partially out of normal spacetime, passing through the flagship like a ghost. The effort shattered systems throughout the ship. Alarms blared as the Star Weaver tumbled toward the sanctuary's entrance. Behind them, the coalition fleet opened fire, but their weapons couldn't track a target shifting between dimensions. They hit the gateway hard, reality twisting around them. Walsh felt the Luminari's power surge one final time, guiding them home. The Star Weaver emerged into a space that defied human comprehension, a vast crystalline city floating in a sea of pure energy. Welcome, a chorus of mental voices greeted them, to Luminara. As Walsh stared in awe at the city of living crystal, he saw other Luminari approaching, hundreds of them, their combined light rivaling a sun. His companions' joy at reuniting with their kind washed over him through their fading connection. They'll keep coming, he said finally. The coalition won't stop until they find this place. Perhaps, Vesper agreed. But now we are ready. And we are not alone. Walsh understood. He had helped save the Luminari, but they had given him something too, a glimpse of humanity's potential when they chose to help rather than exploit. His decision to free 3 slaves had evolved into something far greater, a chance to bridge the gap between species, to show that humans could be better than their worst impulses. As the coalition fleet regrouped in normal space, unable to detect the sanctuary's true location, Walsh began planning. The war for the Luminaries' freedom was just beginning, but now they had something worth fighting for, a future where humans and Luminari could work together, not through force, but through trust and mutual respect. The real revolution, he realized, wouldn't be won with weapons or power, but with the simple truth that had guided him from the start, that freedom was the right of all sentient beings, and some prices were worth paying to preserve it.